Well, we might have canceled here at the Big A, but Paul LaDuca called me. He said there will be a show today. So we're down at Oaklawn Park, and it looks like a polar opposite day from yesterday. And polar is probably a bad word to use. It's a glorious day down at Oaklawn Park after yesterday's deluge canceled racing mid-card. We'll be at Oaklawn. We'll be covering races 4, 5, and 6 from Oaklawn Park. We'll also be covering ACT Racing from Tampa Bay as well. Races 7, 8, 9 to close other cars. I mentioned the man who dragged me out of bed and said, we're coming to Aqueduct today, Paul LaDuca.
Yeah, listen, there's a ton of rain here in the area, and the officials here made the right choice of canceling the races yesterday, and it's foggy out, too. I don't even think that we would have been able to call the races. I think Chris would have had a problem even calling the horses down the backside. So there's the optics that we see from here. It's actually a little worse from up top. But, yeah, we got a couple races from Oaklawn, and we picked up some races from Tampa.
Got some action to go on. We also have Oaklawn's Big Rebel card, which was drawn a little bit earlier. Paulie and I will be talking about some of the major stakes on that day. But I'll tell you what a difference a day makes, as it looks absolutely gorgeous down there. It looks so nice. And I'm kind of annoyed that the MIG is down there. Their track conditions are good, which is impressive considering the way the track looked yesterday. They're fast and firm at Tampa. Race 7's on the turf. Races 8 and 9 are on the dirt. Of course, that'll be the late pick 3 there. We'll also show the start of the late pick 5 at Oaklawn Park. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, there's no better time than now to head on over to NairaBets.com and use the promo code BONUS200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Play any track, anywhere, anytime. Play through Naira Bets.
Every time I see that logo, Flavien Prat smiling, I always think he's smiling at you, Andy.
Well, I got to tell you, the guy's abandoned us for the warm weather of California. So, I don't know why we got him up in the winter. I think one of the tough winter warriors that spends the winter with us should be representing. I'm happy to have Flavien up in the summer, but I don't know. I got a beef with that. He's warm, we're cold.
I think he's earned it, maybe?
He definitely earned it with a great year yesterday. Yeah. Another man who's earned it was after somewhat of a trying day yesterday. Richie, it must be awfully nice to have some good weather at Oaklawn Park.
What a difference a day makes, Andy. It is absolutely beautiful. It's cold, but it's crystal clear, brilliant sunshine. Kudos to the track man to have this track in the shape it's in. The amount of water that came down yesterday, it was just relentless, and it got to a saturation point, and ultimately that's why they pulled the plug, called the remainder of the card. But this morning the track was sealed. I watched horses train. They opened it up right after training. We've got a little bit of a cool breeze, and this track is very close to being fast now. A remarkable job by everybody involved.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible when you look at it, when you think about yesterday's deluge. And, this was not exactly the end of the rain. It continued to rain quite a bit throughout the day after they canceled. So it's not as though it had already stopped and they were able to get it fast. So a nice thing to see that they're good and they're harrowed there. An interesting situation in race number 4, Paulies are heading the track. There was a lot of speed signed on in this race, but there were 2 scratches, the 1 and 6, and both of those horses projected to be forward. Now, that leaves the 12 possibly as a main speed. I don't know about you. I thought she was a little tough to make, but I think it does change the complexion of the race a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does change the complexion because you're right. The 1 and the 6 were going to be the 2 speeds in here. The 12 in here, like you said, I don't think you need tremendous credentials. Like when you look at in this race, the 7 horses drop in Shandana, and who I like. But when you look at Shandana, the horse hasn't won in 3 years. Well, that was the theme of yesterday. We had a couple of horses won that haven't won in 3 years. But Randy Morse's barn is hot right now. This is a horse that can pass horses a little bit. But she's also 0 for 7 over the racetrack. So do you want to take that type of horse at 3-1?
Or the 10, Sequin Lady, who's currently 2-1, who's coming off of a horrendous performance. And while she's dropping down for David Jacobson, how can you really trust her off as badly as she ran last time, albeit against a better field?
Yeah, I get it, against a better field. She's run 2 really good races at Churchill. She threw in a clunker at Keeneland. Good one at Churchill. You kind of look at her and like, does she just like Churchill and nowhere else?
I don't really believe in those things. She has run well at Tampa in the past. It's hard. David Jacobson, as we've discussed many times, he's a very tough guy to read because they'll look not so great on paper and they'll run a big race. They'll look good on paper and not run particularly well. So I don't. My general feeling, Paul, is bad race 2-1. I'm not excited, but it depends if you can find somebody else. The remaining half of the entry is the number 1A going out for John Herron and Nick Juarez.
And this horse is going to be all the way on the outside, starting from the outside. Should show some speed. John's horses always show speed.
Does cut back in distance. The number 2 is Beautiful and Bold. Martin Schwann riding for Aaron Shorter.
Another horse that cuts back in distance. Aaron Shorter, a really sneaky good trainer.
Number 3, Dream Princess, off the claim for Steve Asmussen with his son Keith Asmussen.
Well,
riding.
you make a good point here before. If you're going to take a horse that's off a bad race, I'd rather take this horse at 9-1.
I don't disagree with that. The 4 is Desert First, going out for Elias Lopez with Ricardo Santana.
Good race last time on the slop. Now it gets a dry track.
Going to have to improve Spotlight to be competitive here for Kim Poole and Rocco Bowen.
Yeah, it comes from way out of it, more Kim Poole's horses, but he goes with his main man, Rocco.
We mentioned Shandana, the drop down.
Yeah, Tyler Bacon, the bug boy. I like this horse the best, but again, hasn't won in a while.
The 8 Floating goes out for Doug Anderson.
Yeah, you know, Dougie's a good little trainer, but Pusak is aboard. Another horse that could show some speed.
Francisco Ariata on Be My Bestie.
For Armando Hernandez. 1 start and 2 starts, actually, since way back in July of 2024.
The aforementioned Sequin Lady going by for David Jacobson. Royal Blush. This is one for Norm McKnight that might not like dirt.
Yeah, you know, Norm's so good at these horses coming in from Woodbine, but this horse didn't run that well. Maybe going back to sprint might help.
Horse should be forward in this race. We'll see if it helps. Is Dixie Penny on the second from the far of the south side.
Yeah, and you know what? He's got the right rider. Martin Garcia usually is a guy that will push his horses forward, so I would not argue with you at 18-1, because if you get the lead in this race, you could be dangerous.
Pretty tight up front in the in the trainer standings at Oaklawn as Steve Asmussen and Ken McPeak are tied for first and second. Ron Moquett having a very good meet. Chris Hartman, who I always expect to be in front, also having a good meet. But it's nice to see the dispersion of trainers where a lot of trainers are winning and nobody, and even it's got to be easier than I thought if Tom Amos, who's not even there, has got 7 wins. They must be giving it away.
It looks like the same leaderboard as last year. Then you throw in Mark Cassie and you throw in Tom. They've dedicated themselves to bringing horses down there, and they've run well. But the usual suspects up on top. Now, Steve got off to a slow start last year and then kicked it into high gear. So, you know, usually he starts winning in bunches when it gets later in the meet.
Yeah, see what happens. I tell you, it is a very, very competitive racetrack at Oaklawn Park. The purses are extremely strong, but I tell you what, it's never easy to win down there.
Very hard to win down there. And you got to read in between the lines, because that's just the way. You can look at different things, and a lot of people always ask me, how do you do when you handicap Oaklawn? I'm like, you got to read kind of inside the lines.
Yeah, I agree. You have to be a little bit
creative.
All right, Richie, be creative.
All right. Well, I'll stay in the same vein that you guys are talking about with Steve Asmussen and his runner, the 3 Dream Princess. Could not look any better, making the first start for Steve. Now, she is a 7-year-old, and she's only made 16 starts, so obviously, you know, there's reasons horses don't run that often, but she could not look any better physically. And I'm looking now, she's 8-1 now. I think that's a very square price for a horse that I think is going to be very competitive here. Looked fabulous in the warm-up under his son, Keith Asmussen. The 7, Chandana, would be my top selection. I thought she made a lot of sense on paper. She's dropping in class. I think that class relief could be the key here. And you get Tyler Bacon, and I have been very impressed with this young man. I really hope that we get to see him maybe in New York at some point. He, to me, is a special talent. Horses run up into his hands so beautifully. He keeps them balanced, and they run for him. And he's getting a lot of guidance and a lot of support from Wayne Lucas. Me and Wayne were talking about him the other day. Young rider on his own, 17, start making big money. I don't think Wayne's going to let him stray off the right path, if you will. And Chandana could not look better physically. And then the 10, Sequin Lady, you know, listen, another 6-year-old, mare, comes off a subpar effort. Looks terrific. And again, one of the things that I've told you guys, admittedly, it's a little harder for me to kind of pinpoint how well a gray horse is doing from their coat. But this one kind of shines through. She's got a good, rich, hydrated coat, and she's well drawn towards the outside. But I think it's all about the 7, Chandana, guys.
I have a question for you, Richie. When can we expect the announcement that Tyler Bacon is going to be bringing his tack to New York with his new agent, Richard Migliori?
Well, no, I wouldn't be his agent, but I tell you what, I really do think, Andy, it's interesting. We watch young riders, and, you pick apart. They have, habits or different things that they need to work on. They're going to make mistakes. That's why they get the weight allowance. I see less mistakes with Tyler. I like a lot of the things he does. And watch when he switches his crop to the left hand. He looks a lot like an older rider. He doesn't finish like an apprentice. So if you can combine that patience, those quiet hands, good gait rider, position conscious, and then finish strong, that's a pretty dynamic combination.
Having made, obviously, the successful transition from being a top apprentice to a top rider, do you think one of the hardest parts for these riders is maintaining your confidence when you inevitably have a major fall off in the quality of the mounts you get once you lose your bug?
Oh, it's a huge factor. And a lot of it is the people that are riding you when you're getting the weight allowance are people that are conscious about weight and want the weight off. Now you don't have that, 5 pound off, and they go, well, I can go to somebody with a little more experience, and then you're going to lose business. The key is riding for people that are going to continue to ride you. And the fact that Wayne Lucas has already ridden him in stakes races, obviously the Southwest Stakes on American Promise, kind of is a big vote of confidence. And you ride for those kind of people, other trainers almost fall in line. So, well, if he's good enough for a Hall of Famer, why isn't he good enough for me?
I think a perfect analogy on that one is when Irad Ortiz lost his bug and Kieran McLaughlin left him on questing in both the CCA Oaks in Alabama and Saratoga, and she emerged victorious. And there was a lot of talk about how Kieran showed that confidence. And I think Irad probably would have done fine if that didn't happen, but I really think that accelerated him continuing to get top mounts.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and listen, obviously a superior talent, a generational kind of talent, Irad, and I think Tyler has a chance to be like that. It's interesting. Years ago when the stables like Tresvant Stable were more prominent, they always rode the bug. They wanted the weight off, and they wanted you to save ground. As soon as you lost the bug, they dropped you. They would on to the next bug rider, and then you had to rebuild your business. So even though they helped you with the bug, it kind of hurt when you lost it. For me, when I lost the bug, I rode 300 winners my first year. The next year was a little over 100, and then it dwindled down to, I think my worst year was like 70 winners, and then it picked up again. So I went through a pretty strong post apprentice slump, if you will, but I also had bought my contract from Steve DeMar at that point and lost that backing.
Perseverance. And one thing we know about you, Richie, nobody has more perseverance than you. Richie makes Tyler Bacon the early morning line favorite for the 2025 Eclipse Award for apprentice jockey. Feels like he's probably right.
Yeah, listen, you make a good point, but at the end of the day, you just need somebody to believe in you, one person to believe in you, and then you need to deliver. And Richie was able to deliver, and hopefully Tyler Bacon can. 9-5 on the 10 and 5-2 on the 7, I think are a little too short. I'm in agreement with Richie. I think the 7, she's the horse to beat. I do think the 3 and the 4 are the other two horses, Andy. I think the 4 does it first. If you look back at some of her races, maybe she's just a better sprinter.
It's fair. I wish her last race wasn't a slop.
Yeah, I get it.
My problem is when you see that jump up in Fig, it's two things. First of all, she was a turnback last time, and I love turnbacks, and I wonder if that helped her, but I don't disagree with you. And I think the 3, as you said, is definitely an interesting alternative, especially at 8-1 in this race.
Yeah, you're getting a good price at 8-1, and the other two horses in here just haven't won in a while. Now, the 10... Sequin Lady is a horse that has won 7 races in 33 starts, so I can understand why she is the favorite. And like you said, the 12 could give you a nice little thrill here, Dixie Penny, if Martin Garcia pushes the button early, as they're having a little trouble loading. It looks like the 9 right now, Be My Bestie.
Also want to let people know that there is a power outage at Tampa Bay right now, and things are on hold, so we're hoping things can clear up, and there is some weather down there, so we'll keep you posted on that. But we do have Oakland. They're almost in the gate, and Matt Dinnerman has the call of the 4th.
Be My Bestie, just about it. Now she's it. Henrietta going to climb back aboard now. Spite post position 5. Sequin Lady the Gray for the David Jacobson barn. Chandana coming up. 2 back, Royal Blush and Dixie Penny. For a diva. Now there's 2 back, Dixie Penny and a diva in the lime green for John Herron. Here's a diva. Go again. We're ready to go. And they're off. Uneventful start for all the runners. Dixie Penny's shown rain to get out to the lead with a Diva. These two a neck apart, and Dixie Penny has the lead from a Diva who's running in the second spot. Then a line of runners, Beautiful and Bold, Sequin Lady in that group with Royal Blush, and Be My Bestie between horses. Gap of 3 back to Floating. Racing in midfield, she's 7 or 8 lengths behind with Chandana. Desert First is next, third last ahead of Spotlight and the trailer Dream Princess as they go into the far turn run. Dixie Penny, the leader with about 3 furlongs to go. A Diva right there matching her. A Diva with a nose in front now of Dixie Penny, who's come under a ride inside with Martin Garcia. Be My Bestie, 2 lengths off the lead, sent upon from third. Chandana's creeping in the white jacket. Caught wide turning for home, but she's in the clear on the outside if she's good enough. Royal Blush alongside of her, trying to duplicate Chandana's move at the top of the lane. Chandana on the grandstand side, coming to gobble them all up, and is up to tackle a Diva in the final furlong. A Diva finding more. Chandana now shaken up by Tyler Bacon. Chandana to the front. A Diva to the inside, very stubborn, but Chandana's got a narrow lead. Sequin Lady coming on, but only for a minor award. Chandana on the class drop scores. A Diva second. Sequin Lady third. Floating was fourth.
Well, the 1A, a Diva, got into the race off the also eligibles and gave a real scare at a big price, 33-1. But ultimately, it was the favorite, Chandana, who wore her down with the second choice, Sequin Lady, clunking up for third.
You know, there's always a time they're going to win.
Yeah.
Hasn't won in 3 years, but Chandana has never been this low. Give Nicky Juarez some credit. I'll tell you what, one thing about Nick, he's going to put his horses forward. He's going to be aggressive. He was aggressive with the Diva, but Chandana on the drop was just too much. And the 10 Sequin Lady kind of had a wide trip, but no excuses, to be honest with you. A horse on the drop, and Randy Morse's horses of the last couple weeks, he's had 6 or 7 winners.
You know, Randy Morse, especially, I remember when we first started covering Oaklawn, felt like he had a couple of lean years. But man, this year and the previous 2 years, he has really won a ton of races down there, and it's so hard to win races down there. And you wonder sometimes if it takes you a while to sort of figure out bringing the right horses, getting the right horses, being in the right spots. Whatever the case has been, his last 3 years have been very strong at Oaklawn
He's
Park.
a solid trainer, Andy, and he's got the respect of everybody else. When he won, and he beat Tom's horse in the race, with Taxed, and obviously Taxed has not moved on. He got the respect from everybody. Tom gave him a shout out on X. Everybody gave him a shout out. He's well liked, very quiet, man. And but he'll tell you like it is. He reminds me a little bit of Mike Maker, as he's got that like little, kind of that dark humor, but great humor. But he's a great horseman.
Yeah, well, he gets the win here on the drop down, a popular win as the 7-5 Chandana and Tyler Bacon get the job done in race number 4 at Oaklawn Park. We still have more action to come from Oaklawn, and hopefully we'll get some action in from Tampa Bay as well. Magnitude, winner of yesterday's Risen Star, has burst onto the scene as suddenly a giant player heading towards the Kentucky Derby. Welcome back to America's Day at the Races, zipping through the hallways of the beautiful hotel recently opened right adjacent to Oaklawn Park. As Oaklawn getting ready for another big season and a huge weekend next week with that Rebel coming up. Big fields for the Honeybee, the Rebel, as well as the Razorback. A lot of excitement on that 12-race card as we look at Tyler Bacon bringing the popular winner of race number 4, Shandana, into the winner's circle. The MIG has a very special guest.
Thanks, Andy. And pleased to be joined by Tyler here. Tyler, you worked out a real nice trip. Your filly Chandana was traveling so nicely into your hands around the turn.
Yes, sir. There was some trouble at the start coming out of the gate, so I just tried to help the person that was out on the inside of me and help myself out, and it worked out perfect. I got on the outside, and she just started rolling.
And she really did it nicely. The drop in class helped out. But, you know, that's one of the things that impresses me about your ride. And for a young man, you stay pretty calm. When things don't go right, you seem to handle those situations.
Yes, sir. You can never get scared in them situations, especially stuff like that. It's just best to stay calm, and hopefully everything works out right.
Tyler, we were talking off camera about when you started to think about being a rider. You rode in those pony relay races in Montana, and then you were talking about watching replay shows. Tell me a little bit about what really caught your attention.
Well, just the big, nice horses, you know, and all the money that goes to it. And I really love riding horses. It's like, it's not even a job to me. It's just something fun.
Well, when you love what you do, it's easy to do it every day. And now you ride every single race the remainder of the card.
Yes, sir. Hopefully get some couple more wins.
And, you know, obviously you're young, pretty fit. You don't get tired too easy.
No, not at all.
Tyler, have you given much thought to what you're going to do when Oaklawn closes, where you're going to head for the summer?
I'm not sure about that yet. I'm just trying to take it day by day and hopefully finish out the meet strong.
Stay in the moment. Enjoy yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Guys, young man with a big future.
A lot of respect for the MIG. Really, frankly, a lot more respect than I think the MIG deserves with that Sir stuff. But nice to hear from him, and obviously can't disagree with Richie. He's really riding extremely well down there. Yeah. It's always interesting to watch the apprentices and see the ones that are able to succeed as journeymen, because it is very, very difficult making that switch.
I think he's got a shot in the next race in the John Horan horse opposite the crowd. I think the horse is going to show some speed. Now the 10 and 11 are going to get bet in that next race, but I think he's live in the next race as well. He's good. He's a young jockey on the rise.
Yeah, and opposite the crowd's taking a significant drop in class for this race as well. Take a look at that field for race number 5 as well. I think there were, was there scratches? Yeah, the 1A and the also eligible scratch. But basically the body of the field remains intact. And you can see a fairly wide open board, though backed by gold right now is 2-1. Another horse for David Jacobson. Another short price that I'm a little bit skeptical of is this New York bred is down at Oaklawn Park.
Yeah, you know, the 10 and the 11 are the two lowest in your pick threes in the will pay, so they're going to be your favorites. They're going to be 1-2, I think, in the betting. Now, she's in the Army now. The 11 won by 13 1/4 lengths, but like Andy said, it's tough to gauge those muddy races, and she probably is going to be a little bit overbet.
I agree, and she probably is going to be forward in here, but I think they're going to be moving a bit up front, so it could be a bit of a taxing pace in this race. We'll see how things play out. Well, you look at these Derby preps and you look for definitive performances, and, you know, we saw a nice performance, but nothing thrilling in last week's Sam Davis. Well, thrilling might be an understatement. We saw from magnitude. Curtis came just flying out of the gate with this horse, taking no prisoners, setting a fast pace, and running an incredibly impressive race that earned a 108 Beyer speed figure. And a lot of talk is about whether or not a bias contributed to this. I think it's an interesting conversation, but it shouldn't take away from the fact that this horse has thrust himself into the conversation for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, anytime you win from the 13 hole like this. Now, Ben Curtis came over here known more as a rider that likes the turf, and last year he got kind of replaced on a horse that was heading to the Derby. But when you win by this many lengths, I don't care what your price is, you're doing something special. And like you said, the number comes back legit.
Yeah, it was a very fast race. Now, you see how the second-place finisher picked up the pieces racing along the rail, and there were performances during the day where horses ran well on the inside, and it's hard to say that it had nothing to do with his performance. But if you look through the results, and I took a pretty strong look at them, it's hard to know a lot of the races because there are a lot of first-time starters who on yesterday's card. Who knows how good they really are. Right. But there were horses that raced outside that ran back to their figures. So it wasn't as though we saw an enormous amount of horses running hugely better numbers using the rail to their advantage. So I do think it helped him. But I'm still not sure if he ran 8 points lower, if he wouldn't be considered one of the top horses for the Derby after this performance, especially in a barn like Steve Asmussen's.
That's true. It's really true. And I mean, with the W on the back, the Winchell Thoroughbreds, this horse could be the real deal. You just never know with Steve. Steve's horses can grow up day by day. And here's a horse that he decided, okay, let's go to the front end. We got the 13-hole today. We got to push forward. Horse thrived. I mean, he took off, Andy. You can't argue what he did. Right. Now, what was behind him? I guess it's time.
Well, East Avenue obviously is the discussion because he ran absolutely nowhere, whether or not he needs the lead to be effective. But he ran so badly, you have to think something went wrong.
Yeah, but we kind of had our reservations about him last year.
But still.
Yeah, still. But we had our reservations about last year because his big wins were at Ellis Park where speed was king. So we had kind of our reservations about him going into the 2-year-old race, and he had the worst trip ever in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I get it. And then yesterday, it was his first start in a while, so maybe give him another excuse. But nobody was beating Magnitude yesterday.
No. Obviously, Magnitude was winning. I've written off East Avenue at this point. I don't know how he bounced from that to become a player towards the Derby, but curious to hear the Migs' thought on yesterday's incredible performance down at Fairgrounds.
Well, you know, at first blush, guys, right, it's like, wow, where did that performance come from? But they're young horses, and they're changing all the time. And I read some quotes from Steve Asmussen that he thought early on that Magnitude might be the best of his 2-year-olds last year. Now he turned 3, and now all of his efforts that he's been on the lead have been stellar. Obviously, this was in another stratosphere. But, you know, I was thinking a lot about it. Some horses are better off going a little faster than slower. And I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, right? That, you know, well, if you go faster, you're going to get tired. But I think, in essence, if a horse has got such an efficient stride, which obviously he does, I think everybody else gets tired chasing a horse that's just capable of maintaining a high pace. And that's what I saw yesterday. A young horse, maybe just they found the way he wants to run, get out of his way, let him do his thing. Andy, I'm sure you remember a horse in New York named Individual I used to ride for John Kimmel. 2 years I rode the horse terrible. I'd put him on the lead, slow the pace down, and then the horses without kick him. One day I just let him roll the entire trip, and he ran 1:33 and change. Then he came back, he broke the track record going 1:3/16 in Saratoga because I let him bounce along, 23, 46, 109. Some horses are better off going faster than slower, and that might be the case with Magnitude.
I know one guy who probably didn't like that performance, Richie, was Steve Asmussen. Was Bob Baffert, because Citizen Bull appears to be a need-the-lead type, and if both these horses are need-the-lead, take-no-prisoner types going to the Derby, we're going to see some pace. And I think a bigger question with him isn't necessarily how good he is whether or not he can be effective. He's not able to dominate in the front end.
True. And then you got another horse that could be a serious horse, and we're going to cover the Rebel. Could be Speed King, another horse with forward action. And I actually do think Speed King is the real deal. I don't know that he can win the Kentucky Derby, but I think he's going to make a good account of himself at Oaklawn. So a couple of horses right now with front-end speed are really your...
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Right, the point you're making is a general one, which is there appears to be some potential for some talented speed horses in this Derby, which means they're going to be moving in there, and it certainly opens the race up. Now, I've amended my top 10 from last week. I obviously took East Avenue out. I don't know how you could possibly consider him a legitimate Derby contender at this point. I hope he ends up being one, but we'll see. And I've moved Magnitude to the top. Make no mistake, I'm not running to bet Magnitude, but I think considering what we've seen so far, you've got to say Magnitude now becomes oddly the horse to beat for the Derby.
100%.
It's the middle of February. I wouldn't necessarily bet him. I'm not saying I'd bet Sandman, but I'd rather have Magnitude #1 than a horse who got a rough trip like Sandman. Magnitude may be an extremely exciting horse, and because he's in Steve Asmussen's barn, I tend to think that Steve's horses, look at Gunrunner. Gunrunner was always a good horse, but his improvement from a 3-year-old good horse to a super horse started late in his 3-year-old year. So there's a long way to go, but I don't see any reason after yesterday we shouldn't say that Magnitude is the #1 horse right now.
No,
might change dramatically in a month.
No, I get it. Listen,
or a week.
What have you done for me lately? And I agree with you. I think this horse ran a giant race, 108 buyer. And listen, will he probably regress in his next start? You never know. But now Steve's got a little chips to play with, right? He's already probably in the gate. Let's make sure that he gets there. I do like your 3 and your 6, and we'll find out in the Fountain of Youth. I think the Ian Wilkes runner is a runner, and I also think Sovereignty's a horse that's been behind the 8 ball a little bit, but we'll see how he comes out. He's been off a long layoff, so.
Sovereignty, obviously, interesting horse who broke his mate in the street sense, and Churchill's supposed to run in the Fountain of Youth coming up, and a lot of people have a lot of eyes on him. Not just because he won a race at Churchill, which in my opinion means absolutely nothing. Sunderland Park Derby today for 20 points, 20 points to Battaglia at Turfway. They're prepped for the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and then you go in the 50-point preps. The Rebel, the Fountain of Youth, Gotham and San Felipe the next weekend. Things are getting a lot hotter and a lot heavier as we head towards the Kentucky Derby. And the Rebel at $1.25 million, no surprise, able to attract an overflow field. 14 horses entered for this race. And one thing I was saying to you off air, Paulie, is I've had a chance to at least glance through the PPs. There's only a couple horses in here that you're going to say, boy, they don't belong at all. And sometimes you see a big field and you find out, well, there's a lot of filler in there. I don't think there's a ton of filler in this race, Paulie.
No, I'm with you. You know, listen, Cold Battle, a horse that I love as a horse. I just don't think he'll keep on moving forward. But you can't argue with a horse that won the Springboard Mile. He beat Speed King, came back, and won the Smarty Jones. Sandman could be the favorite. But you make a good point. Publisher with Flavian Proud aboard, very dangerous. Matacat Road's got some roads with Irad Ortiz Jr. Irad did not even, I don't think, ship in to Oakland last year to ride a racehorse. Yeah, you're right. It's a pretty darn good field. Even Dreamin' Blue.
Yeah, a big day of racing, no doubt about it. And we're going to have a special team down there, not just the MIG, but Maggie and Acacia are going to be down joining them. And you see that 6-stake lineup, including big fields in many of these races. Big field in the Rebel, big field in the Honeybee, big field in the Razorback. Going to be a lot of fun next weekend. And Richie's going to get some excellent help down there at Oaklawn. We'll be on from 2 to 7 as well, Eastern time, covering the action there. A lot more good racing to come down there as the Triple Crown Trail gets a lot hotter, especially after the performance of Magnitude yesterday down in the Risen Star. Horses are in the paddock for race number 5 at Oaklawn. We'll be back after a quick break.
The champion 2-year-old. One of 4 champion 2-year-olds in his immediate family. Essential quality at 2. Undefeated.
Essential quality, though, has opened up by 5.
Devastating. His own first 2-year-olds race in 2025. If they're anything like him and you've got a mare in foal, just imagine.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at nairabets.com.
At the Keeneland September yearling sale, the premier thoroughbred auction venue in the world, Mandy Pope of Whisper Hill Farm signed the ticket on the $5 million sale topper by Curlin, bred by Stone Street Thoroughbred Holdings. He was one of $5 million plus yearlings by Curlin to sell. No fewer than 55 of his yearlings fell to the auction gavel, averaging nearly $600,000, making Curlin the #1 sire of yearlings in 2024. Curlin, the classic sire.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
I love this Stallion barn because this is where we house all of our stallions. And it's a favorite amongst everyone that comes on tour because they get to meet and greet some of their favorite horses that they saw race or are fans of their progeny. So this is Midnight Lou. So these boys are always expecting a mint. Yes, they know when we're coming, don't ya, on these tours. Of course, Loggins is our newest stallion. So son of Go Zapper. Yes, I know. Very handsome, very youthful looking. I like to come when the stallions are coming in from their paddocks. So I get to see them all parade in, and Violence comes in every day, very proud. So I enjoy watching them come in and go into their different stalls, and that happens around noon each day. Violence, I would say, stands the proudest, looks the tallest, even though he's not. If you wanted to draw a picture-perfect stallion, this is what you draw a picture of. He's a beautiful stallion. A little bit aggressive. Clean your mouth out, charlatan. You're messy. This is Charlatan. They call him Charlie in the barn. That's his nickname. So, fun fact about him. Full of personality.
And here is the horse of the year, Go Zapper.
Of course, he's a legend of the barn. 24 years old. We had no intention of moving our stallion division here when we first purchased Alapa. And when the decision was made to move the whole operation here, we had 6 months to be out of the Lexington facility. So we had to construct that breeding shed and get all of these paddocks up so that we were ready for breeding season for our stallions. So I would say that Good Magic is probably the kindest, gentlest stallion in the barn. We're really proud of Good Magic and excited about his future. Of course, he had Mage win the Kentucky Derby in his first crop. We look forward to everything that's coming up from this guy. Curlin. Here, buddy. Hi, handsome. So here's Curlin. Consider him the king of the barn. Hi. It's great for me to do tours because when I do give a tour, the fans are so blown away and they just say wow constantly that it's a good reminder for me every day to appreciate it.
Our show, America's Day at the Races, brought to you in part by Hillendale at Alapa, and you can tell from that video just what a spectacular place Alapa is. And I've heard so many good things about it from people in the industry.
It's amazing. Sometimes you go to those farms, it's immaculate from tree to tree. Some of those horses live better than 25% of the Americans.
Horses are on the track for race number 5 at Oaklawn, the second of 3 races we'll be covering on today's show. The number 1, Collected Glory, William Martin and Cristian Torres.
Yeah, Cristian Torres for a smaller barn, I guess makes this horse dangerous.
Manny Escoval rides Chip Shortage for Dan Ward.
Yeah, Dan Ward off the claim, and a horse that has shown speed.
Legally Charitable, Eric Asmussen will try Dirt for the first time, and this horse for Norm McKnight. Misha, number 4 for Michael Roan, and Jose Gutierrez.
Yeah, horse has been running long races. Now will cut back in distance, but hasn't shown much.
Ingrid Mason trains Afraid I'm Not Sense. Nick Juarez.
Yeah, 2 for 12 lifetime affiliate by Golden Sense.
Don't You Know It? Tom Vance and Joseph Belmere.
Yeah, another horse that she's got to improve here at age 6.
Dwayne Lloyd trains the number 7 with Walter Dela Cruz, Singing Emma.
Now, Singing Emma to me is, you can look at her, but she's had some gait issues. She will show speed if she can get out of the gate.
John Horan and Tyler Bacon team up on Opposite the Crowd.
I like this horse a little bit, affiliated by Bolt d'Oro.
Long Shot 9, Fearless Christie, Todd Jordan.
Yeah, a horse that hasn't run well in her last 3. She really needs to improve.
Another short price for David Jacobson, backed by Gold, the New York bred, Sammy Camacho.
Yeah, 7-year-old that's in for her career low. That's why she's getting bet.
She's in the Army now, who appears to have a lot of speed for Wayne Catalano and Francisco Arrieta.
A horse that won by 13 3/4 lengths over the mud, and that's why she's 5-2 right now.
And we rounded out with the Archie bred, Little Burrito.
Great name, Little Burrito. Off the long layoff, did not run well. She just doesn't have any races at age 7 that could really win this race.
Let's head down to the MIG for more on Oaklawn's 5th.
Yeah, Andy, I'm going to talk about 4 horses, 2 that are just purely on the physical appearance, and then 2 that physical appearance and match up on form, starting with the 2 Chip Shortage. Just making a really nice impression here. She's 9-1, a horse that has some speed. The inside kind of simplifies things for Manny Esquivel. You got to try to go forward, get your position going forward. Looks outstanding, though, as does the 5, Afraid I'm Not Sense, if I'm saying that right. This is a horse that hasn't run since October, but looks extremely fit for Ingrid Mason. Really nice coat. And it's 32-1. I do think this horse will outrun the odds, but it wasn't a horse that I made on paper as much. The 8 checks both boxes opposite the crowd. Love the way this horse looks. Getting back to a proper level, was in over her head last time. And you get Tyler Bacon. So I just think there's a lot to like here, and physically she's extremely well turned out. The horse that gets the absolute appearance check mark is the 11. She's in the Army now, trained by Wayne Catalano, who rode nearly 2,000 winners as a jockey, has trained even more as a trainer. Usually the rule of thumb is the better the rider, the worse the trainer. Not the case with Wayne Catalano. Terrific rider, terrific trainer, and she is dappled out, this daughter of Army Mule. Looks amazing, and she has natural speed from the outside. Francisco Arrieta's really hit his stride, and she just checking all of the boxes for me.
Thanks a lot, Richie. We'll see what happens in race number 5. Paulie, help us out.
It's a difficult race. I like the mare on the screen, the 8, and Richie said he likes her too. The filly, excuse me, she's a 4-year-old. There's the 11, and you could tell why Richie likes her. She is making a good appearance. She should blast out of there with Francisco. Now, Francisco isn't a Sensen rider, but when he goes, he means a little business. I think Singing Emma the 7's the key to this race because she has enough speed.
She's a bullet.
But the gate's been her issue, Andy. If she can get out of the gate, then she makes this into a funky race where somebody can come from off the pace.
And I feel as though opposite the crowd, we'll take a look at her finishing second, 2 back with Chip Shortage a distant third. I feel as though John Haran got just overly ambitious with her off the claim last time and put her in a race that she just couldn't compete in. Now, I'm a little bit concerned that her better form is out of town. Her big figure was down in Indiana. And overall, is she really good enough? But I still think she fits in the race if she can get back to her races last year at Oaklawn, and even the one in the mud, this race where she finished second. I agree with you guys. I think she's very dangerous.
Yeah, she's dangerous in here. And you make a good point. Cipriano Contreras is a good trainer now. That's who John Haran took this horse off. And now you're right. He probably put the horse over her head, and now she's back to the level where basically she won. She won at 10,000. This is about the same here at 12.5. She looks like she should come from a little bit off the pace. She looks like she can come, she's going to be in that first flight, I would think.
What about the horse that finished third behind her, Chip Shortage? I moved this horse up off the claim by Dan Ward. Now, I'm not convinced that her best races aren't in town, good out of town as well, as she wasn't running particularly fast at Oaklawn last year. But I thought she was a little bit interesting as a move-up for trainer Dan Ward if you're looking for another option.
Yeah, because you look at her last 3 works, they've been real slow, that boom, a nice little 48-3 last time. Danny's horses are starting to fire here of late. Obviously, the ex-assistant of Jerry Hollendorfer on his own for a while now, and he's a good trainer. I think the other horse in here is the 3, and I learned this from a couple other guys, Greg Compton and another trainer, Kim Poole there, who are by Norm McKnight. With the weather that you have there in Oaklawn constantly, kind of like here, it's very, very cold, but they're not allowed to train on the racetrack there a lot because being a national park, you're not allowed to put a lot of the chemicals on the racetrack when the racetrack is frozen. And I remember Greg Compton telling me, I learned so much from Norm McKnight because he's used to these situations at Woodbine when you don't get a lot of training in. And I think that's why a lot of his horses do fire. So I think the 3 is a horse that if you look at that work on January 16th, and then kind of a slowish work. So I do think the 3 could be a little dangerous here.
My concern with Legally Charitable is that she has to be better on dirt than she was
that's
in synthetic
true.
to
That
win
is true,
here.
yeah.
And it's certainly entirely possible. Maybe she's a horse that should have been on dirt all along. But having said that, it's hard to get her to move up. And I'll tell you something else, not to be too tough. I have not been impressed by the riding I've seen from Eric Asmussen. I'm not saying he's a bad rider, but he's a long way from being as polished a rider as some other guys.
I'm with you. He's still learning.
Yeah, he's young. I'm not trying to be overly critical, but our job is to be honest and analyze these things. And I think that Eric Asmussen, his brother, he needs to take the strides his brother Keith took moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm yet to see them. And I thought Keith made some very big strides going forward. Perhaps Eric will as well. But right now, he's not on the list of riders that I'm looking to bet on.
I think Eric's a little bit more forward, and where Keith is a more guy that's a little bit more thinking. Where Eric is like, I'm just going to go forward with my horse and put the horse in position. So maybe he needs to work on a little bit of both. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like I watch replays and I see him getting in some trouble. And a lot of riding is how you react when your horses get in trouble. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not trying to be overly harsh. But he is a rider who won the Eclipse last year. But I think his journey from apprentice to a journeyman is going to be much tougher. They're almost in the gate for race number 5. Let's get the call from Matt Dinnerman.
Little burrito coming up to the gate. Goes it. We're ready to go. And we're off. Another good beginning for the field this afternoon. There's a lineup for the lead. Singing Emma up on the pace with Don't You Know It. Singing Emma head in front. Don't You Know It. Afraid I'm Not Sense moving up. And Afraid I'm Not Sense has the lead. Between horses, Singing Emma, She's in the Army Now is 3 deep with that group. Gap of 2 lengths to Don't You Know It is easing off the speed. She's 4th now, 2.5 lengths behind. Backed by Gold, Fearless Christie, and Chip Shortage to the inside going into the far turn run. Those 3 stretched across the track. They're a length better of Maisha opposite the crowd at the back of the pack, passed by Collected Glory as they round the far turn. She's in the Army Now, makes a dash for it and puts about 3 lengths on the second place horse, Afraid I'm Not Sense, who's already under pressure. Singing Emma backing out in third. Backed by Gold just joined her, but has a lot of ground to make up. They all do if they want to catch She's in the Army Now. She's in the Army Now. Francisco Arrieta down the lanes, still in control of things. Now the reins get shaken at her. Backed by Gold is coming on strongly now, and now She's in the Army Now is getting tired. Backed by Gold on the outside, grinding away towards the front here. Coming late, Collected Glory the Gray, and also Maisha. Backed by Gold hits the lead, but for how long? Here comes Collected Glory. Backed by Gold held her off. Backed by Gold over Collected Glory, and then Maisha, photo for 4th. She's in the Army Now is involved, but she backed into a wall in the final 16.
Fast pace caught up to She's in the Army Now in the middle of the stretch as the stalker, backed by Gold, the actual second choice in this race is the 11 with 6-5. Caught her in mid-stretch and was barely able to hold off the 1 Collected Glory.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to Cristian Torres wherever he lands. You never see him at 23-1, but congratulations to the 10 here. Backed by Gold, Samuel Camacho Jr. able to sit a nice little trip. The 11 looked home and cooled out, but then, yeah, she started shortening in stride. You could see the 1 and the 4 were coming together, and the 1 really surged late here, and Cristian Torres almost got the job done, but 10-1-4-3 it looks like in the end. And this is going to be a nice little trifecta and superfecta.
Yeah, the 11 who looked in a very good position, top of the stretch, just couldn't maintain that pace. 22-1 for a first quarter at this level is a tough pace to keep up, and it caught up to her in mid-stretch as the number 10. The second choice, backed by Gold, narrowly able to hold off the 1 Collected Glory, as you mentioned, a
Another
rare
lesson,
long shot.
though, like do you talk about when these horses win by multiple lengths on a muddy racetrack and go to a dry track, they're almost a bet against.
Yeah, muddy tracks are tricky. They're gonna exaggerate performances, and you always have to be careful. Those horses that run big numbers on muddy racetracks, and I think some people are going to suggest there's an allusion to this to yesterday's Risen Star. Not that it was wet; it was fast. But there's a perception by some that there was a strong bias. I'm not in the strong bias camp. I find that people are too eager to call for biases and too quick sometimes to say that a big performance was bias related. Now, sometimes it is. There's no doubt about it. But you need to be careful, and you better be sure you're right before you declare a big performance completely bias-aided.
Exactly. If maybe 1 or 2 length win, bias. When you win by 8 or 9, is it really a bias?
Well, the counter argument to that, Paul, is that those big gaps are often because of biases. Yeah. So that would be the counter argument to that. But there's always so much to talk about in racing, and a lot of intelligent people have to agree to disagree, and the results show who really is the right one in the end. A long way to the Derby, a long way until race number 6 at Oaklawn. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races. I'm pleased to be joined by Samuel Camacho. Nice ride here on the 10, backed by Gold, the New York bred mare. She looks like what I would call a bicycle horse, Sammy, where if you're not pedaling, she's not running.
Exactly. I know this filly very well since New York. You know, what a coincidence that I have the opportunity to ride her in New York when Patrick Quick have it. She come from layoff that time, and I know her since I was working her in the morning. So I kind of like figured it out. She's the kind of the filly that you have to always keep her prepared. And when you're ready to make the move with her, you know, you just gotta go. So she handled today, thank God, you know. She handled, and we was never give up on this filly today, you know, was right into the wire, so.
Well, and you look good, really good, strong finish. And Sammy, you talk about getting on her in the morning. You work for David Jacobson in the mornings, because I'm out here in the morning. I watch you get on a lot of horses for him.
Exactly, yeah. I've been doing this since I moved to Kentucky with David, you know. It's like you know the horse in the morning, you know what to do in the afternoon. Kind of like, sometimes it's good you exercise in the morning, you know, because it keeps you fit, mentality, physicality. And like I say, you can know the horses, you know, and you can know what to do in the afternoon. And yes, I've been doing this, you know, like I say, since I was in New York, back to Kentucky for Davey. And this is like new opportunity things doing, and I'm happy doing this, and you know, and I kind of like be here every day and know this horse as much as I can.
That's great. I love to see hard work rewarded. How do you like the town too, Hot Springs?
I like it here very, very much. You know, this is like a quiet town. It's a little town, you know, very decent. Like I told you just a while ago when we don't was in the camera, here is good thing used for save the money. It's not much to do, but you know, so I enjoy here. So.
Great job here. Terrific ride.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Guys, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, luck is a funny thing. Yes, you've got to be in position to make yourself lucky. But one thing, and I think everybody here will agree, in horse racing, the better you are, the more you're going to be unlucky than you're actually going to be lucky. So it's okay to be lucky sometimes as well, but nothing wrong with this ride. I'm backed by Gold and able to hold on to a narrow victory over the long shot Collected Glory in race number 5 at Oaklawn. Race number 6 at Oaklawn will be the last race that we will be bringing you from Oaklawn Park, as their 7th going off just after our window, as we must be off the air by 4:50 today. And also should mention, Tampa Bay is officially canceled, so there will be no action from Tampa Bay. Probably no surprise to you here. And right now, the 5, We Need a Favor, is the favorite.
And I think the horse to beat in here. And,
I agree.
The four Magnum Force is getting played in here. I think those are the 2 horses you got to beat. I think the 5 is by far the horse to beat. And there's 2 things. You create your own luck, but it better be lucky than good.
I do want to bring up, as you mentioned, the second-time starter, Magnum Force. Do you feel that Magnum Force was on par with Dirty Harry as the second of the Harry Callahan movies, or do you feel like it was a big drop-off between Dirty Harry and Magnum Force?
Big drop-off.
Big drop-off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dirty Harry's really tough to beat.
I agree. Very
Josie
good.
Wales I would put in front of...
Yeah, that
Magnum
wasn't
Force.
Harry Callahan. I think that was a little before Harry was born,
yeah.
actually. But maybe Josie Wales is kind of the...
I get it.
You know,
the precursor.
The outlaw Harry Callahan. I was going to bring up, you know, like The Enforcer, which I believe is the 3rd movie,
it's a great movie
in the
Enforcer,
sequence.
yeah.
And I know you've seen them. It's one of the things about being on with you, Paulie, I know. And that is not paint a pretty, it's a little scary. I hope everybody's okay down there. Is it any coincidence, by the way, that our boss, Eric Donovan, went down to Tampa for the week, that they should be having weather like that? I'm not saying it's related, but it sure feels like it. But we hope everybody's safe down there, and we're sorry races were canceled down there. Tampa, a fun track, and we'll be covering more action from there as the winter goes on.
Yeah, listen, we've had a ton of weather in the East Coast, and please stay safe. That looks like there's a lot of lightning there. They can't get the board up for betting right now. It's just one of those things. And listen, they live to play another day.
And speaking of perseverance, Sheriff Bianco hadn't won a race in quite a while, and he perhaps needed some events for it to happen yesterday. But he's a horse that shows up with a good effort almost every time, and it was nice to see him score the upset victory in the Safe Florida Sandy at Aqueduct on Saturday.
Nothing stood in his way. War of Will won the Preakness.
line. War of Will. That's a photo for the win.
Will then and Vince Chemino take the Jimmy Durante.
War of Will, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Enhance your handicapping with AI Fast Facts, exclusively on Naira Bets. Open your Naira Bets app, click View Runner Details, and a stat-driven fact will appear for all U.S. thoroughbred racehorses. Download the Naira Bets app to start using Fast Facts today.
RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. True odds, predictive analysis, and pace projection. RaceLens. It will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level.
The sun shines bright on Caraconte. His first crops of racing age are showing brilliance on the racetrack with a high percentage of stakes winners. His versatility is evidenced by winners on all surfaces across the globe.
Spandarella could not have been more impressive.
She feels more than pretty. She feels fantastic.
It is all she feels pretty. The sun shines bright on this value sire. Caraconte, standing at Gainesway.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you.
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races, brought to you in part by Claiborne Farm. 100 years of doing the unusual, unusually well. And one thing you can count on when we talk about Claiborne Farm, you see some beautiful pictures.
I mean, that's absolutely just stunning. And whenever you see horses frolicking in the snow, by the way, they love the snow. In the Safe Florida Sandy yesterday, Sheriff Bianco liked the racetrack.
Well, Paulie's part horse. That's how he knows that, in case you guys are wondering. But Safe Florida Sandy, he really is. You know, one of the things about horses like him, you talk about being lucky. Well, you've got to put yourself in position. Yeah. And yes, the three choices in this race failed to show up in here, which obviously led to the long shots running 1-2 in here. But the thing about Safe Florida Sandy is he always shows up with a solid effort, or virtually always. Yeah. So he's in a position where if other horses don't run their A races, he can win a race like that. He's a very good horse, and he had his day yesterday.
Yeah, he's like the consistent horse, Sheriff Bianco, right? So you look at him and you go, okay, well, he was an upset yesterday. Well, he's been the consistent horse, and he finally got a race where, like you said, the three choices kind of threw in a clunker, and he just ran his regular race, and he won the race. So he was a big price yesterday, and maybe this will propel him a little bit. He hadn't seen the winner's circle in almost 3 years. And maybe he's going to be like, well, you know what, I want to visit this a little bit more often, and Linda Rice pulls it off again.
Yeah, she came back on short rest, and Linda's horses, when they come on short rest, usually put in a good effort. And he just basically ran his race yesterday, and quite a few others didn't. And, I mean, that's a credit to Linda and to the horse as well. Claimed this horse for $30,000 and has made well over $600,000 with him herself, as he's won over $800,000 now. A terrific racehorse. Winning a race named for an incredible racehorse who won over $2 million racing over 20 plus years ago, ran 98 times, 41 triple-digit buyers in his 37-win career.
Yeah, like it's kind of fitting, right? You know, Safe Florida Sandy ran so many
hard knocker,
times,
right.
and then you got a hard knocker, kind of like Sheriff Bianco, who's got 700,000, maybe like almost 800,000 in the bank. Kind of has run his races here and there, so it's kind of fitting that horse wins this Safe Florida Sandy.
Yeah, it really works very well. Yeah. And Safe Florida Sandy, originally owned and bred by Sandy Bacon, a terrific performer here who ran some different barns as well, but a fun day yesterday with him winning. Still more to come. Race number 6 coming up at Oaklawn Park. Do want to once again mention Tampa Bay with a weather situation, unfortunately, was forced to cancel. Hope everybody's okay down there. But they're okay in the paddock at Oaklawn Park with race number 6 just minutes away. Welcome back to America's Day at the Races as the horses are in the paddock for race number 6 at Oaklawn Park. And incredible job getting the track as listed as good. People are watching it. It doesn't even feel like there's a ton of moisture in the racetrack considering the conditions on yesterday's racetrack.
Yeah, it really is. They do a good job there when they harrow the racetrack. Getting a little windy, just a little bit of wind, and you'll get a dry track. Now, the crazy part about it is Richie knows this now because he's going to probably start getting a little cold, that when the sun goes down, it kind of covers the racetrack. So it's kind of built the other way around. So
that's what we do at racetracks, right?
Yeah,
Belmont Park is like that. Del Mar is like that. It's interesting how I guess it's because when they're seasonal. And at least with Belmont running in the summer or Del Mar, Del Mar wasn't exactly built to be running meets in November.
That is true.
Though the first time I went there, in fact, I think I saw you there. I went down there in November of 2016 for the big turf races and had a great time.
No, it's obviously a beautiful place, and the land down there is absolutely beautiful. And Oaklawn's the same way. I mean, it's just like when that
sun goes down,
drops,
it gets cold.
It drops.
I'm sure people have learned at the Breeders' Cup as well. Let's talk Rebel, Paulie.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Timeform pace projector for the Rebel next week, and they project the 11 Speed King is the speed of the speed. Both you and I find it a little hard to believe he's going to be able to outrun Smokin' Wicked early, who's cutting back out of sprint races where he showed speed, and pace is going to be so key in this race.
It is. It's going to be very key. Now, Speed King and Rafael Bejarano, drawing the 11 hole. Is that going to hinder him at all? We'll remains to be seen.
That's no start. We do need to see the start to take a look at, of course, Sandman, who had this tough start in there. But I don't think it's detract by the terrific performance by Speed King, who was involved in a pretty hectic pace there and still able to finish and run a big figure. I don't think anybody's arguing that Sandman was the best horse in the race or should have won the race.
Yeah.
But I think there is discussion of necessarily who absolutely ran the best race.
Yeah, you make a good point. Speed King was able to just keep on going and going, and I think he's very talented. But again, Sandman with Cristian Torres aboard, with a better trip, and the way this race will play out with Innovator, with Smokin' Wicked, and some other horses, and we'll get back to the start of the race with Sandman, and this is what happened, and this is why he kind of just like balked a little bit onto his front knees and then propped up Andy. It's amazing that he actually ran second. It's amazing that the jockey stayed aboard.
Right. Now, it's hard with this angle to see exactly how badly this affected his start, as obviously we don't really know. But it definitely took a few lengths from him. But I can see a situation where he breaks well in here, and he gets good position, he wins. He wins by 2 lengths. And a lot of us, or the wise guys, are saying, I like Speed King out of the race because he ran the better race in the front end. And I think that the knee-jerk reaction to always assume that the horse who had trouble ran the best race. And I'm not saying he might not have, but I think it's a lot closer than people might think.
100%. I think it's a lot closer than people think. But I also do think sometimes when you're in front, you are the one that's the less dirtiest, and you're the one that's going to be less out of trouble. But Speed King might have to lay off the pace. Do you think he's talented enough? And you know what? Maybe Ron Moquett will find out what kind of horse I do have. Because, listen, let's be honest, Speed King's not going to wire the Derby field. It might happen.
It doesn't feel like a reasonable possibility.
Exactly.
I agree.
So
at
it might
some
be
point,
something where we need to rate and find out what kind of horse we really do have.
No, I think that's a very, very valid point. Breaking outside of horses like Innovator and Smokin' Wicked put him in a position where he's probably better off at stalking, if not one or both of those horses in here, and find out, can he finish in races where he's forced to stalk? Because you're right. I mean, the thing about these Triple Crown trials, and I understand, it's $1.25 million race. Ron Moquett wants to win, and people
100%.
want to win the money. But if you're trying to win the Derby, and you're really trying, you got to find things out somewhere. And I think you got to find out whether or not this horse can rate to be effective, because it's looking like there's some talented speed heading towards this Derby right now.
Yeah, and if he's effective rating, now he's got 2 different ways to go. Now he's a serious contender, right? Now you're looking at maybe like a Mystic Dan where, okay, he might not be that talented, but wait a second, this horse can put himself wherever he wants, and we saw that maybe sometimes the best horse doesn't win the Kentucky Derby, the horse with the best trip.
Well, I mean, as an exaggerated example, take American Pharoah, who obviously was supremely talented, but he didn't need the lead to win. as it turned out, and ultimately that helped him in some situations going forward. We'll have on-site coverage, of course, as always. The MIG will be down there, but Acacia and Maggie are going to join him down there. So we've really got an all-star team down there. I don't know. I look at that picture, and it's sort of like which one of these things doesn't belong, from the old Sesame Street.
I just want to know how Richie got as tall as both of them.
Yeah, Maggie's not a giant. Acacia's a little taller than the rest of us, but Maggie's not a giant. She's more in the category of people like me. The MIG's taller than I am. Anyway, as the horses are on the track for the 6th race at Oakland, a mile and 16th, and Paulie and I are in agreement that the 5 is the likeliest winner here, coming off the claim for Kelly Bainham, who I'm not familiar with at all.
Kelly Bainham, actually, it's a crazy question as we go through the post grade here in a
Number
little bit.
Number 2 down the islands, J.K. Sweezy and Nick Juarez.
Yeah, Nicky Juarez. Blinkers go on, and a horse that's shown speed. I'm not a fan of a horse that's already shown speed, and blinkers go on.
Surfin' M, William Martin, and Rocco Bowen.
Yeah, a horse off of Greg Compton's training and getting bet here at 4-1.
The sequel to Dirty Harry. The number 4 goes out from Gary and Mary West and Brad Cox.
And a Maximum Security, 5-2.
We Need a Favor, off the claim for Kelly Bainham. Julian Leperoux.
Yeah, we'll get to Kelly Bainham in a little bit. I'll explain where she comes from. But her and Troy used to be forces down at Turf Paradise in Phoenix.
And a rider switch to Julian Leperoux, the 6 for Eric Asmussen, riding for Steve Asmussen, dropping down. Highway 20 ride.
I don't think that horse should be 23-1, but again,
I agree with you on
106-1 last time. But
no, I agree. That's sort of crazy. Long shot Mula went by. The 8 Primo Canary. Chris Hartman, always dangerous.
Yeah, the blinkers go on. You make a good point about Chris. He's always, and this horse had trouble at the gate. Maybe with a better gate, this horse could improve.
Shea Stewart trains Rev's Tomb.
At least the horse that's kind of been in form, right?
Lindsey Schultz dropping down Go-Go Roro.
Yeah, big drop-down effort. Really no effort. A 6th buyer first time out.
Cutlass King rounds out the field. Another drop-down for Armando Hernandez and Francisco Arrieta.
Armando Hernandez is very sharp. Gelding, Lasix. This is a whole new kit going on here. Blinkers going on, so maybe treat this horse as like a first-time starter.
Richie, you're a little interested in the 3 Surfin' M off of the claim?
I am. I just think that this horse maybe had a round into form, took, a couple races to get to a better fitness level. Really liked the way the horse looked from a physical perspective, and really that's what won me over more than anything else. I have some questions with a few of the other horses that I, handicapping like the 4 Magnum Force. One race made an allowance at Churchill Downs, now immediately drops to 35. And looking at him from a physical perspective, even though he started going longer, a little more short coupled, I just wasn't getting the greatest feeling or impression. Now, the big drop could be the answer there. And then the 5 horse, We Need a Favor, who I liked quite a bit on paper. It's a pretty chilly day here in Hot Springs, and this horse is washing out badly. I mean, I don't know this horse. Maybe it's not out of character for this particular horse, but when it's as chilly it is, and you see a horse dripping sweat down their neck, down their shoulders, I don't think that's a great sign. So I wound up landing on the 3 just because I kind of got steered away from the other 2 contenders that I liked.
Thanks a lot, Mig. Miguel is going to get us a special guest in just a few moments down there. But, Paulie, you and I agree on We Need a Favor, and you can talk a little about Kelly Bainham.
Well, Kelly and Troy Bainham were trainers. They were Troy Kell stables down in Turf Paradise. And to be honest with you, Troy actually trained my first winner. Now, Kelly has gone back into training. She had a couple horses. She's actually had a winner. She claimed this horse. She lost one of her major horses, a gun runner that she really brought down there. But she's a very, very good trainer. She knows what she's doing. Now, she took this horse from Robert Klein and Kelsey Haar. A lot of people don't know them, they are partners, but they're not allowed to be married because in the state of Arkansas, if you are married, you're not allowed. You only have to ride.
They are allowed to be married. They just don't want to get married and hurt their business.
They hurt their business, exactly. So
just want to make sure they are allowed to be married.
I rephrased that wrong.
You would perform the ceremony, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
If
I would
that
have been the pastor. No
Can
problem.
we go to the MIG and his special guest, please? Let's head back to Oaklawn.
Boy, I'm glad I was your guys' escape from that conversation, but so pleased to be here with Ron Moquett. And Ron, first of all, the rain we had yesterday, I am just in awe of the fact that they have this track in as good a shape as it is.
Well, from a horseman standpoint, we want to thank the track crew for doing what they could do. Obviously, we had 3 horses in the last part of the card. We was wanting to run, but we understand we got to do what's best for the horses. So this morning, I was amazed at how good it dried out overnight.
I was too. I was watching horses train. I couldn't believe it. But, Ron, you're having a tremendous meet. Your horses are running so well. Obviously, Speed King and the Rebel coming off a really nice win. What was the final decision to go in the race? Just he bounced out of his last one in such good order?
Yeah, and we said we was going to look at the race and make sure. I love how he's training. It's it's a lot of money and points if you go over there and do what you're supposed to do. We're going to look at it and see. We don't necessarily like the fact we're giving up 5 pounds to a lot of good horses. That part isn't very cool this time of the year. But we're going to take all the information and make a decision whether we run. Right now, I'd say it's 51% we run.
Now, he's a horse that has a lot of natural speed, but it looked like your Raphael was trying to rate him a little bit last time. What kind of trip would you like to see him have?
Well, I've been training him to come from off the pace a little bit. We've taken him back in the workouts. If you can see it, on our website there, we've let him sit behind horses and eat dirt and then move out and go around or up the rail. So hopefully he'll do that when we ask him. But, man, it's a 14-horse field of really well-meant, nice horses with solid connections and pedigrees. And it's a gambler's delight. But as a horse trainer, it's like, man, we'd like to see some of these easy fields,
Absolutely. Ron, you unveiled a maiden, a first-time starter about a week ago, a little over a week ago, him. I thought that was as impressive a maiden breaker as I've seen in a long time.
We were very proud of the way he did. So many times we think they're going to come over and do that, and then it takes a couple races. But I can tell you that whenever one of our horses run well on their first out, then a lot of it's the horse and not me. I'm not someone that really cares if we win our first out. I want them to learn the proper things to make sure they have longevity of career. And whenever he did what he was supposed to do and did it like, there was still a little bit of erratic stuff, and everybody was saying, was he looking at the grandstand or whatever? He was reacting because Ralphie's job was to give him a little reminder just so he'd feel the stick, and whenever he went to move to go do the stick, he reacted. And then he was like trying to straighten him up. But he's a very talented horse, and we're hoping for a bright future.
Everything's going well. Your horses are running great, and they're running to their looks. This man's horses are always extremely well turned out, guys.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Ron's comments saying that they don't sound like they're close to 100% to run Speed King down in there. And Paulie, I can't disagree with his notion about the weight. I'm not a weight guy, but these are serious late preps for the Triple Crown races. I think they should all be running at the same weight. I agree with him completely.
100%. I mean, you're battling for Derby points. Why would you give an advantage to any other horse?
I agree. Do you disagree, Richie?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. It should be equal weights. There's points on the line to gain a berth in the Kentucky Derby. It should not be one horse gets penalized for having success. It should be equal weights so everybody has the same shot at those Derby points.
But, Richie, tell Ron if he wants some easier races, he can get some stall space in New York right now. We could use the help because there ain't no easy races down at Oaklawn Park. As they're heading into the gate for race number 6 at Oaklawn, and I got to bet a few dollars on our horse, the number 5. We need a favor, Paulie.
I'm with you. I think this is the horse to beat for Kelly Bainham. I think a lot of people are going to end up knowing her by the end of this Oaklawn meet. The 10 take it a little time to get in, go row, and look like Magnum Force, and the 5 will go in. But right now, currently, I think 7-2 or 5-2.
All right, I think 3-1 last I bet. We'll see how much that changes. Matt Ditterman has the call of the 6th.
2 back. We need a favor. Into the outside. Cutlass King. Cutlass King coming up. Here we get. We're ready to go. And they're off. Reb's Tomb was away awkwardly and then having to take up sharply was down the islands here. Nick Juarez trying to get his left foot back in the irons there after that. Down the islands with a lot of trouble with some squeezing at the break. They go into the first turn run, and Magnum Force is on top here. Magnum Force a half length in front of Moolah, who runs in the second position, pressing that leader around the first turn run here. Right behind him is We Need a Favor, who's been keen to go on here. Cutlass King claiming the 3rd position. Then comes Malachi running in the 5th spot, 6 lengths off the pace. Another 2 lengths further back to Down the Islands has made up some ground after getting squeezed at the break. Joining Go Go Row Row. Primo Canary is next in the field. Surfin' M is second to last, and Reb's Tomb at the back as they head down the backstretch. Magnum Force, the leader here clearly, 1.5 lengths in front. Moolah, who runs in the 2nd position. Cutlass King is 3 deep, 2.5 lengths behind. Then comes Highway 20 Ride. Down the Islands, getting closer outside of him. Primo Canary about 4 wide going into the turn, and Malachi's inside of that rival, 3 deep as they charge around the turn. We Need a Favor is next in the field on the rail. He's 7 lengths behind with Reb's Tomb. Surfin' M has dropped to the back of the pack while under pressure. Around the turn they go. Magnum Force, the favorite, still in control, a neck in front. Moolah on the outside right there coming up the challenge, and these two open up about 6 lengths on the rest of the field. Primo Canary into the 3rd position coming off the turn. Magnum Force, Moolah side by side coming down the lane. Moolah's 33-1 on the outside. Magnum Force at 3-2 inside, not going away though. Magnum Force reclaiming the lead from Moolah. Magnum Force kicking on now, and Magnum Force is going to win it, pulling clear from Moolah. 3rd home was We Need a Favor, and Primo Canary checked in 4th in a strung out group.
Looked like an upset was in the making as the long shot Moolah got outside and got the lead in the stretch for Magnum Force, but Magnum Force came back on to get the victory. Both you and I felt like Julian Leparoux was maybe a little overly patient with We Need a Favor, but at the end of the day, that horse really didn't finish, so I don't think he was any better than 3rd best at all. But the favorite, the 4, Magnum Force, on the drop-down, gets it done for Brad Cox, and another win for Cristian Torres.
Yeah, Cristian was aggressive. And the 7 I think about right here is about a side in front, Andy, and then the 4 was able to battle back on the 7 here. Moolah, good job by Isaac Castillo. Put that horse into the race. It just shows you when you get down to these claiming levels, especially the 35,000 at Oaklawn, you want to be up against the pace, where the 5, might have been 2nd best. I'm with you. It made a little bit of a run, but you just can't be that far back and you're not going to be able to pass horses.
4-7-5 in race number 6. If you had the long shot anywhere in there, you'll do okay, even though the favorites ran 1st and 3rd in order. But the number 7, Moolah, off the claim for Carlos Santamaria. Almost pulled the upset, but does get 2nd at a big price in race number 6, which will be the final race we're bringing from Oaklawn. But we got a lot to talk about before we go off the air at just 10 minutes before 5. A lot of conversation about the big weekend, next weekend at Oaklawn Park.
Cyberknife was a very talented horse from day one. A very gifted, fast horse, a lot of speed, able to carry it around 2 turns. Looks a tremendous amount like Gunrunner, same ability and talent, beautiful physical, outworked every horse on the board. Holds the track record in the Haskell. He won it in impressive fashion, beating a very good group of horses.
And Cyberknife has won the TVG.com Haskell over Tama. Jack Christopher finished 3rd.
The Arkansas Derby was one of his best. Showed how much talent he really does have, and stamped himself as one of the best 3-year-olds in the country.
His name is Cyberknife!
Cyberknife ranks up there as one of the most talented horses I've ever had in training. Multiple Grade 1 winner, brought it every time you let him over there. Excited about him passing on his durability, his soundness, and his talent, and if he does, he could definitely be a breed-shaping stallion.
This is my Oaklawn.
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races as the number 4 Magnum Force heads into the winner's circle for trainer Brad Cox and Cristian Torres. We appreciate you joining Paula Duca, Richard Migliori down at Oaklawn Park, and myself as we're covering Oaklawn. Tampa, unfortunately, was forced to cancel before their 6th race today due to some weather down there and a power outage. But the number 4 Magnum Force, he might not be a Dirty Harry, but he was good enough today.
He was. Congratulations to Gary and Mary West, who's really put a lot into this game. Brad Cox, the trainer, and Cristian Torres, who's riding in great form. This is a colt by Maximum Security. The Curlin mare tapped twice, got Lasix for his 2nd career start, and he got the job done. Mula, at a big price, really ran a good race. 24.20 in the middle.
Yep, and the Exacta paid $49 for a dollar. Missed out on what the Tri paid, but the number 4 Magnum Force gets it done. Cristian Torres, an aggressive ride on the drop down, gets the money. $5 in the win end, as we mentioned, $49 for that Exacta. The Tri, $90 for 50 cents. The MIG with a special guest.
Thanks, Andy. And here with Cristian Torres. Cristian, horse showed a lot of fight, Magnum Force today. He got very comfortable on the lead, but he found when he got challenged.
Yeah, I look at his replays when he first ran, and he kind of like he was in the race, but I could see like during the race he was just paying attention more, around him. So after I seen that race, I just wanted to break and be on the lead. So he got, he don't have like horses in front of him, so he can just lose focus, and everything played out perfect.
One thing I've noticed, Cristian, since I've been here, you're very, very good at getting your position going forward. You're a very good gate rider. That seems to be an advantage here at Oaklawn.
Yeah, definitely. This is, it's a track that you have to be close. It's fair for anyone, but if you're close and you have a nice position, it's a lot better. So I always try to be as calm as possible in the gate and try to break and have the best position that I can get and then go from there.
Now, next Saturday, you've got the mount back on Sandman. You did a miraculous job just staying on Sandman at the break, and then he ran big to be 2nd.
Yes, he did. He's a great horse, and he really showed us in that race that how good he is. He's been running, a lot, and he's been getting better and better by race. But he definitely, after that start and the way he got into the race, going into the backside, he was just, behind the favorite, just going to the backside. I was very confident, and I just, I put my hands out and just let him do his own thing. He's a very smart horse, and when I asked him on the 3A, he really picked it up for me, and everybody knows the story. So hopefully this time we have a better break and a better position, but I think he'll be really close.
Well, he also he seems to me too like a brave horse. He's not afraid of running in traffic.
No, he's, like I said, he can run close. He can make pack or behind. He's a very versatile horse. He's, and he does everything perfect. He's not a horse that is how can I say, a little difficult to ride. He's just very easy. I just put my hands out and he do the rest. He's very smart. And nothing bothers him during the race. So hopefully we get the luck next Saturday.
Well, best of luck there. Continued success. You're riding great.
Thank you.
Guys, your leading rider on a very live horse going to the Rebel.
And the progression of Cristian Torres down at Oaklawn Park over the last few years has been nothing short of remarkable. Obviously, Paul, you were there for a lot of it. And this is the 2nd year in a row. He is dominating the colony down there. And it's not a bad colony.
No, it's not. And, he got off to a slow start last year, but he's really got it going late. And, he's a good rider. What Mick said is right. When you look in the program and you see, well, I think this horse is going to sit maybe 4th or 5th. Cristian has him sitting 4th or 5th. And I think that's the key with him. He's got his horses always sitting in the right spot. I've talked to a lot of trainers, and they never really have a lot of problem with him getting off the racehorse, where a lot of those trainers, when you're down there, Mick and I know, they're yelling at the riders. They're saying this, that. He doesn't get yelled at a lot.
Well, the worst thing a rider can do is get in the way of his mount.
100%.
Ask them to do things they shouldn't be doing. Listen, at the end of the day, it's horse racing. It's not jockey riding, but the jockeys are the ones that have to sort of make sure their horse in a position to run their very best race and win if they're able to win the races. As we mentioned, tons of stakes action next week down at Oaklawn Park. I've been glancing through the PPs up here during the breaks, and they have 6 stakes on the card. Acacia Maggie will be joining the MIG down at Hot Springs. I imagine he will be happy to have a little company down there. We've got the Rebel, the Honeybee, which is for the 3-year-old fillies as well, with points towards the Kentucky Oaks, the Razorback, a prep race for their Oaklawn Park handicap, and the Honeybee features the 3-year-old debut of what's now a 2-headed monster for Steve Asmussen, with last year's champion out of the picture for the Kentucky Oaks, Huhima, drawing the rail. She was very impressive, winning our Demoiselle in her last start over a very promising horse in Ballerina Dioro. Unfortunately, had a scratch yesterday at Oaklawn. She drew the rail, and she is absolutely, Paulie, the horse to beat.
Yeah, great filly by Munnings out of a Tappet mare, right? So she's got a little bit of speed on the top side with a little bit of distance on the bottom side, and she was good in the Shadwell colors. Now she's been 80 cents on the dollar, Andy, 31 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar. She's probably going to be a heavy favorite in the Honeybee, too.
I have a question for you. She is a horse that's been right on top of the pace. Now, she did rate a little bit in her debut. She's probably not the main speed in here. And maybe it's not a bad situation for Brad Cox. Obviously, you want to keep winning, but let some other horses go and find out how comfortable she is rating behind horses. Because Brad, you know, it's interesting. Brad has had, I'm a big fan of Brad's, and I don't mean this as a criticism, but I think Brad would agree with me. He's had a lot of success in preps leading the Kentucky Oaks in the past years, and he's come in there with some good-looking horses that have kind of underachieved subsequent to that. And I think that Brad's trying to get what right now maybe the top 2 choices after the horse winning at Fairgrounds yesterday towards this Kentucky Oaks the right way.
You know the thing about Mohimi, she's very physically imposing. I'm very interested to see what Acacia and, Maggie say about her, and Nick. You got 3 people out there that actually know what a horse looks like, and I'm really excited because
opposed to you and I.
Yeah, right. She is a big, imposing filly. Now with her 3-year-old, well, she was a 3-year-old, but now with a little bit of a layoff, has she grown some more? I do think you're right. I do think look forward from Michael McCarthy, who is an underrated trainer, could be the speed of the speed, or would be the horse pushing forward.
And you think that Gunite Max is supposed to go it well, and once again, I think you obviously don't want to lose at a short price. On the other hand, sometimes these races are a means to an end, and you want to win the Honeybee, but you also want to win the Kentucky Oaks. Yes. You want to win the Alabama. You want to win the Coaching Club American Oaks. These are the races that are going to matter the most as the year progresses, and with Mohima, good opportunity to find out how comfortable she is rating behind horses, especially breaking from the rail position.
Yeah, she can learn a lot, right? She can maybe get some dirt in her face and see where she goes from there, and maybe just sit that little stalking trip on the inside and get some, a little bit of a lesson. And like you said, we talked about it with Speed King. You don't really, does Mohimi need to stay undefeated by going gate to wire? Does that serve her well for the first Friday in May? I don't think it does.
What if you also find out that she's not effective rating behind horses? Then you have a horse that you need to be forward with.
What do you do with the outside
horse,
5G? The George Weaver horse.
Well, that's a very interesting horse.
That's kind of the wild card horse.
Now,
right?
I don't think she's fast enough to keep up with the speed that you're talking about with some of these other horses. But I read Ortiz from post 13, presuming no scratches, is going to have to ride her at least for position in here. And she comes off a giant effort last time. It was only her second start in the dirt, and she didn't handle the dirt at all the first time. Can she bring that form? Because she was good last time.
She was very good last time. And I make that point because George is very, very good. She's been around 2 turns on the turf, but then she just absolutely ran off the screen on the dirt going 1 mile. She's by Vekoma. We've seen already what Vekoma's done at stud. His horses are running, so he's the interesting horse in the race, or she is to me. I mean, because she draws that outside post and she speed up the pace.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Looking forward to looking at these races as we close in on that day, but also looking forward to covering them. Next Saturday, we'll be on from 2 to 7 Eastern Time with a nice team down at Oaklawn Park and hopefully some mediocrities up in the desk here, present company included. Preview of the Rebel coming up after a quick break.
Mind Frame on the outside. It's coming after Dornoch, and it's Mind Frame and Dornoch head and head with a furlong left to go. Sierra Leone is closing ground. It's Dornoch hugging the rail. Mind Frame a little erratic, but he's still right there with Dornoch in an absolute thriller. Dornoch and Mind Frame. It will be Dornoch and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Belmont Stakes, it's not that far away, just a little over 3 months. Tickets are on sale for the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. Going to be a 5-day racing week this week, starting on Wednesday with New York Breds on display on Wednesday, June 4th, of course, the big day. Saturday, June 7th, the second time we'll be running the Belmont Stakes up in Saratoga while we're redoing Belmont Park. Want to head on over to belmontstakes.com/tickets for more information. Last year's winner, Dornoch. It was an exciting weekend. You do not want to be left out of the excitement of Belmont Stakes week at Saratoga. Take a look at the field for the Rebel, and it's a strong one. Obviously, it's interesting what Ron Moquett said about Speed King, where he said, I'm 51% to win. I'm just kind of impressed that he could narrow it down that specifically.
Right, 51%. Yeah, 51%. So
a little over.
I'm leaning towards
a little
I'm ready.
over a coin flip. Let's find out what the Mig thinks about Saturday's Rebel, which, of course, he'll be there with Maggie Wolfendale and Acacia Clement as well.
Well, just a tremendous day of racing all the way through. Big fields, quality fields, very well-matched fields as well. I think it's a buffet or a smorgasbord, if you will, for wagering options here. I think Cole Battle's really interesting. I mean, I think he was certainly flattered when Speed King came back to win. He gets a good inside draw in a 14-horse field. As long as he can hold his position into the first turn, he's going to get to save ground, and he's got to work out a trip. And I always like it when you see connections we're not as familiar with. They don't get the opportunities with, big name kind of horses or, horses that fit in big races. So I'm really excited, for the connections. And Cole Battle's just an interesting, hickory, tough kind of horse. And I think his form is borne out. I think he's very interesting, a horse that maybe he's not going to get the respect that he deserves because he doesn't have his high-profile connections, but obviously a very capable horse trainer in his corner.
Yeah, he is an interesting horse in this race. There's no question about it. And I think there's a lot to be said that he's like the fun story so far in the Triple Crown Trail, Cole Battle. Anytime you get connections like Lonnie Brightly, the trainer, who, I'm Ronnie Brightly, I'm just not familiar with. He was very advantageous last time. And while he showed that he can rate and win, and he was really the only horse to make up ground, significant ground in the Springboard Mile, he's going to have to be faster to win this race.
He's going to have to be faster, but I do like this horse. Anytime a horse runs a good race over several different racetracks, you got to give the horse a little bit of credit. Remington Park was able to come off the pace. Listen, they gave him an easy lead last time out at Oaklawn, and he took advantage of it. I'm going to make a prediction. I think this horse is going to be a horse that you're going to see in the Allen Jerkins.
Yeah, we'll see what he does right now. But, you like the story. One of the fun things about the Triple Crown Trail is the stories that emerge. It doesn't all have to be about the top trainers and the most expensive horses, and that's why these trails can be fun. Richie, innovator. He's certainly going to get his chances in these races from Wayne Lucas, but he's proving to be a pretty talented horse.
Yeah, Andy, I'm going to tell you, let's not sleep on Innovator. He comes out of the Lecomte. He was third there. Built was second in the Lecomte. Came back, was a distant second yesterday at Fairgrounds. Magnitude was behind both of them. But I was out the other morning when Innovator worked. And, I'm not a time guy. He went 59. But the way he did it and the way he finished with his legs up underneath him, and he galloped out as good as a horse can gallop out from a workout. I really think that Innovator is a horse that loves this surface, and he could be rounding the form. And we've seen Wayne Lucas get horses to kind of get good at the right time and make an impact in these kind of races. Innovator might be that horse this year. And, hey, guys, guess what? Who rides him? An apprentice who does not get the apprentice allowance in the Rebel in Tyler Bacon.
He is a horse that could be part of what is a contested pace in here, but I don't disagree. Innovator, whatever he does in here, has shown he has talented. I'm looking through some of the races. The racing card is so strong that in a maiden special weight, the 5th race, Bob Baffert's bringing a $1.1 million purchase by the usual conglomerate of characters, Cornucopian.
Wow.
So that's one they'll be talking about, and Irad Ortiz is listed to ride.
Yeah, he's going to accompany Madacat Road, who's the Grave by Quality Road that has had 4 different riders, but now Irad Ortiz Jr. is going to take over in the Rebel. So all the big boys are there, and I'll tell you one thing. Publisher with Flavian Pratterboard, I know the horse is a maiden, but give that horse a look.
There's a lot to talk about in the Rebel, and not only, is it – you look at these races sort of in 2 ways, right? One, what are we going to find out as we head towards the Kentucky Derby? And with these horses making so many limited starts, there aren't too many opportunities to find out about them. But the other part is handicapping it and trying to figure the puzzle out. And this is a very, very fun race to look at. And the good news for people is the race was drawn today. The PPs are available. So you've got 6 days to go through a card that's got many, many starters. I'm going to guess there's over 150 horses entered on the card, but there's no excuse not to do your work. And I think it'll be fun, and the opportunities exist with the big fields where you don't have to be right too often on the card to make some money. We've got a little time left before we're done today. We'll be right back after a quick break.
How does it feel to win a race like this in your own backyard?
Being here, where I went to the track with my mom and dad. Oh.
And they're off in the Southwest. Speed King on the lead today. He's trying to get over from the far outside. And Speed King says, come and catch me if you can. Speed King down the lane, but it's going to be Speed King. Speed King all the way.
Speed King living up to the name in this year's Southwest Stakes.
Enhance your handicapping with AI Fast Facts, exclusively on Naira Bets. Open your Naira Bets app, click View Runner Details, and a stat-driven fact will appear for all U.S. thoroughbred racehorses. Download the Naira Bets app to start using Fast Facts today.
RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing with unique features found nowhere else. True odds, predictive analysis, and pace projection. RaceLens. It will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level.
New York breds. Race them.
Respect them.
Bet them.
Respect them.
Breed them.
Respect them.
Buy them.
Respect them.
Train them for a second career.
Respect them. Join us in respecting thoroughbreds at every stage of life. Learn more at nybreds.com.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Most horses retire at 4, 5, 6 years old, but they can live to be 30. Every state that races needs an aftercare foundation. It was all started by Bill Walmsley, so we got together, got with Jennifer Hoyt, we got a website, we got a Facebook page, and we could rehabilitate and retire the thoroughbreds that have raced at Oaklawn.
We started off very slow. I think we maybe had 6 horses the first year we were in the program. Overall, we've probably retired and rehomed over 50 horses. We do ask that every owner that donates a horse into the program donate the horse with $1,000. That just helps care for the horse for the first month or so that we have the horse in our care. Every year we do get some good funding, but it's amazing how quickly that goes during the summer and fall when we're taking care of about 25 to 30 horses. At the end of the 22 race meet, we implemented the Ring the Bell program. Ron Moquett brought it to us. He provided the bell. And so that April, that last month of that race meet, we gave owners the opportunity to ring the bell every time they won a race. And we raised almost $9,000 in just that month. It's now something that they look forward to doing. It's a sense of pride. I'm going to ring the bell today because that means they won a race. 2 years ago, the HBPA installed an equicizer at Oaklawn, and that's been a huge fundraiser. Trainers pay $10 per horse every time they put it on that equicize wheel, and all that money comes to our program. Each horse has its own adoption fee. We usually set that based on what the horse will be doing in his second career. It ranges from between $500 and $1,500.
These horses have such a great purpose. They want to do something. They want to be a little girl's horse. They want to be ridden. They want to trail ride. They want to event. They want to be a hunter jumper. They want to do something else. And it gives them an opportunity to live a long, prosperous, wonderful life outside the racetrack. But we need that resource everywhere so a person can responsibly retire their horse and have it taken care of.
Nothing more important than taking care of the horses that give us so much pleasure. And we appreciate everybody that gives their time and their money towards this endeavor.
100%. You know, I mean, anytime kind of aftercare that you're involved in and giving a horse a better home. Like you said, you and I have been playing horses for a long time. We love this game. But at the end of the day, the safety of the horses are the #1 priority. We become fans of horses, and we want to see where those horses go. I remember when Thunder Gulch went to Old Friends Farm, was my favorite horse. I was able to see him. That's the kind of stuff as a horse player and as a horse lover I like to see.
I saw Thunder Gulch lose his debut by a nose, actually.
That's crazy, yeah.
Howie Bagel's still part owner of him at the time before he was bought and switched to Wayne Lucas. You know, first time for Wayne, he won the Remsen on the race before Cigar, won the then Naira Mile. Wow. The Razorback 14 are setting up for this race, which is a prep for the Oaklawn Park Handicap coming up. First Mission, who was able to win the Essex, is a prep for that race, though he went to win the Ali Sheba. He'll be one of the players in there. First Mission does seem to be good at getting the job done when the chips aren't absolutely down.
Yeah, true. He's a good horse, but there's a lot of good horses in this race. It's one of these things where which one of these old-timers is going to fire? Red Route 1, a horse like this, Alexander Helios. There's full screen in here. There's a lot of horses in here, but First Mission will probably take a lot of the money, but even Banishing.
Can Banishing stretch out effectively, running big figures for David Jacobson? It's been fun, Paulie. I've enjoyed it. We'll be doing it again tomorrow as well, covering the racing at Oaklawn as Aqueduct as well at this point. Thank you for joining us on America's Day at the Races. A lot of fun going on at Oaklawn. Thanks to Richie down at Oaklawn as well. Did an excellent job getting some interviews. And Ron Moquett, if you want to come up to Aqueduct, come on over. Show tomorrow, as we mentioned, from 3 to 6:30 tomorrow. I was going to say he's happy, but I don't know if it's Coal Battle. So we know it's he. He's happy and getting ready for the Rebel next weekend. A lot of good stuff to come on America's Day at the Races. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow.